Good evening and welcome to California Today, the California division of NTD News, bringing you top news from the Golden State. I'm David Lamb. Let's take a look at today's stories. Los Angeles residents have no faith in the government handling homelessness, according to a new survey. A large portion of Angelenos agree on the issue. During an operation to crack down on illegal imports, authorities have recovered millions of dollars worth of counterfeit sports goods. There's a complete lack of faith in Los Angeles city leaders to address homelessness, according to a policy expert. A recently published survey shows one thing that almost every Angeleno can agree on is the severity of homelessness in the area.
Los Angeles residents say they do not trust city and county officials to adequately address the spiraling homelessness crisis flooding the streets. That's according to a survey published on Thursday from a nonpartisan coalition of civil leaders and community members.
This is a situation in which you've heard over and over again that voters are sophisticated about this. They understand what's going on. They are empathetic, but they are tired of being fearful. They're tired of being disgusted. They're tired of their elected officials not solving the problem.
Sragao, a longtime policy expert, said government efforts to move both encampments and individuals was discussed at length during surveys. Unless we stop the drugs, homelessness isn't going anywhere. 90% is drugs, one Latino voter said, according to the survey. An African-American voter told pollsters, people are taking advantage of no bail. They're doing the crime, getting arrested, then doing it again. A December Los Angeles Times survey found 94% of residents saw homelessness as a very serious issue.
In all the years I've watched focus groups or conducted focus groups, and it's, in the hundreds, been doing this for decades, never have I seen this kind of consistency in focus group results.
The Committee for Greater LA organized groups of Angelenos for the survey. Residents said officials have no accountability for spending taxes, no consistent plan, and no successful tactics. One policy complaint was LA's Proposition HHH from 2016. It allocated $1.2 billion to build 10,000 permanent supportive housing units for the homeless. As of 1 year ago, 489 units have been built, and homelessness has risen by 45% in the last 5 years. The report estimated about 2/3 of the country's homeless population resides in Los Angeles, which equates to about 41,000 individuals on the streets. The survey found that Angelenos are hoping for a non-government organization to take over solving the homeless issue.
To be inelegant about this, they see this against a backdrop of corruption in LA city government, to be blunt about it. So no, this is not a time to ask for more money. And if I could add one thing here, context is important. We're in an election year.
The Committee for Greater LA sent the results to elected officials and candidates, urging them to listen to their constituents.
A Southern California school has removed a teaching tool that promotes critical race theory. The director of a group opposed to the theory says California schools are already widely teaching the ideas while covering them up at the same time.
A San Diego school says it has removed its Wheel of Privilege teaching tool after parental backlash from it being exposed on social media. The wheel is a tool founded in critical race theory, or CRT, to rank people based on certain characteristics. Some of those include race, sexuality, and body weight. The executive director of Californians for Equal Rights Foundation, or CFER, posted the image to Twitter. CFER wrote in a Wednesday newsletter that the divisive theory alarmed them. Educators received training to use the wheel for teaching middle schoolers. The image was part of a professional development training for Black Mountain Middle School and Poway Unified School District. School principal Scott Corso said in an email to a parent that the wheel was an idea shared at an Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, Awareness, or Big Idea committee meeting. Corso wrote that after receiving feedback, they decided against using the wheel. He wrote that the school has no interest in promoting CRT, but mounting evidence says otherwise. A CFER newsletter wrote that educators stubbornly deny using CRT while already propagating the tenets of its pseudoscientific ideas. CFER's executive director, Wenyan Wu, said, "It does not change the fact that it's teaching or indoctrinating our kids with very bad illiberal and un-American ideas about race in our society. CFER encourages a robust rebuttal to the narrative of victimhood and disempowerment. Corso said the next Big Idea Committee meeting is on Tuesday, February 15th at 6 p.m. on Zoom.
UC Berkeley plans to build construction over a historical park in the city in order to address its student housing crisis. Residents recognize the park's history, but it's now different from what it used to be. The People's Park, located in Berkeley, is currently home to about 40 to 50 people living in tents. Tenants have reportedly increased here since the CCP virus or COVID-19 pandemic started. This 2.8-acre land is owned by UC Berkeley, and there are plans for a housing project at the park. A spokesperson with the university told NTD that the project is proceeding as planned, and they expect to begin construction this summer. The plan is to have two separate buildings, one that would house about 1,000 students, and the other is what they call supportive housing. The supportive housing would have 100 apartments and combine permanent housing and on-site services. But there's opposition to the project. Members of the People's Park Council organization want to preserve the park's land and vegetation and what it stands for.
I was just thrilled with how free everything felt here, and I finally moved in 1985 to Berkeley, and then became more involved with the defense of the park.
As a political monument to the 60s, it really stands for everything happened in Berkeley here in the 60s.
According to Berkeley, the housing project was first announced in May 2017 and approved by the UC Board of Regents in 2021.
We believe the park's past can be respected without leaving the park in its current state.
UC Berkeley spokesperson Dan Moguloff told NTD in order to meet its goal of 8,000 beds, they need to use every piece of land that the school owns.
And even then, we won't hit the 8,000 mark. Even then, we will not reach the goal of being able to offer housing to all first and second year students.
One woman who lives at the park said it's not safe, especially for women, but she told NTD she's not leaving until housing is supported for all the tenants. Moguloff said the school plans to find housing for the tenants before doing construction. They plan to leave 60% of green space open and complete construction by summer 2024 so that students can move in at the start of the 2024-25 school year. David Lamb, NTD News, California. The San Francisco police chief is defending his decision to end a cooperation agreement with the district attorney. The chief lists a history of one-sided communication practices by the DA in violations of their agreement. NTD's Jason Blair brings us more.
The San Francisco police chief Bill Scott defends and expands on his decision to withdraw from an agreement with the San Francisco district attorney Chesa Boudin. Scott announced his withdrawal last week, citing a former DA investigator's sworn testimony that she was pressured into withholding evidence in a deadly use of force case involving an SFPD officer.
The spirit of that MOU is fairness, transparency, cooperation, and an agreement that works for all concerned parties, including the police officers.
The MOU agreement allowed the district attorney's office to lead investigations into officer-involved shootings and other police use of force incidents. It was first drafted with former district attorney George Gascon. In response to Scott's decision, Chesa Boudin says he's disappointed and the agreement was getting good results. Boudin accuses the police chief of withdrawing from the MOU in order to help with a current excessive force case involving an SFPD officer due to the timing of his action. He also said, "I can assure you when my team makes mistakes, we own them. And I can tell you that we did not make mistakes under my leadership in this case, and that's what the evidence will show." On Wednesday, in a police commission meeting, Scott expanded on his decision. He said that there were a number of things that led up to a breaking point. He cited a long list of concerns and violations of the MOU agreement.
These examples provide ample evidence corroborating and supporting my decision that the lack of MOU compliance over the last several years by the SFDA's office, combined with Investigator Hayashi's sworn testimony, and combined with the similar allegations raised by the complaint filed by the former IIB lieutenant, Jeff Belay have catastrophically damaged the confidence among the women, men, and non-binary members of the San Francisco Police Department, as well as members of the public.
California Attorney General Rob Bonta stated that he will mediate talks between Scott and Boudin to help come up with a solution. However, if they are unable to work anything out, then the MOU agreement is set to expire near the middle of the month. Jason Blair, NTD News, San Francisco.
Coming up, with Valentine's Day around the corner, supply chain woes are hitting florists. But with love in the air, florists say customers don't mind the high prices. And a NASA research center in California has attracted some turkeys. The scientists say they don't really know where their feathered neighbors came from, but hope the birds can be safely relocated. That and more here on NTD News. Authorities announced on Wednesday that ahead of the Super Bowl, they have seized tens of millions of dollars worth of fake sporting goods. The seizure came during an operation to crack down on illegal imports. NTD's Eileen Ang has the details.
Local and federal authorities teamed up to identify online marketplaces, flea markets, retail outlets, pop-up shops, and street vendors selling counterfeit goods during the weeks leading up to the Super Bowl. They seized items such as fake jerseys, hats, rings, t-shirts, jackets, tickets, souvenirs, and thousands of other sports-related items. The products have been prepared to be marketed as legitimate, authentic items.
I mean, this is a problem that we're never going to be able to resolve just by conducting law enforcement operations. It's an issue that we have to educate the public like we're doing now, so people can actually differentiate between a counterfeit and a real product.
Ricardo Mayoral, acting director of the National Intellectual Property Rights Coordination Center, pointed out some signs of a fake item.
First thing you will notice is the quality of the stitching. You see the stitching bleeding over from one letter to the other?
Mayoral said holograms can give telltale signs of forgery.
But if you incline it towards the light, you won't be able to see the actual colors. And then you will notice that it's two footballs, and the football in the back is barely noticeable.
They estimate over 260,000 counterfeit sports-related items, worth about $97.8 million, were recovered during Operation Team Player. The operation is a year-round effort to crack down on illegal importation of fake sports apparel and entertainment merchandise.
Some of these jerseys or fake jerseys and or T-shirts, we don't know where they're coming from. Sometimes they help support organized crime. Sometimes they come from host countries that are not necessarily friendly to the United States.
In 2021, authorities seized over 2,600 shipments of counterfeit goods worth approximately $822 million. The result came by policing the sale and distribution of counterfeit goods on websites, social media, retail stores, and pop-up shops. Eileen Ang, NTD News, California.
A large Northern California health system is getting sued for overcharging its patients, but the health firm claims there's no evidence of that.
3 million plaintiffs filed a lawsuit against Sutter Health alleging that the company abused its market power and caused enormous adverse economic impacts by discouraging patients from using lower-cost insurance and lower-cost hospitals. It alleges that Sutter overcharged its own services, about $400 million in insurance premium overcharges, to the plaintiffs between 2011 to 2017. The lawsuit claims Sutter used its market power for inpatient services in 7 mostly rural Northern California areas. The health giant poses monopoly power as the only or dominant hospital in these regions. The law allows triple damages if the plaintiffs win against Sutter Health, meaning a potential award of $1.2 billion. In a statement, Sutter Health said it looks forward to showing that its integrated healthcare network provides high-quality care that creates efficiencies, drives down total cost of care, and benefits the diverse communities we serve. The system operates 24 hospitals with more than 12,000 doctors and 16,000 nurses.
Valentine's Day is just around the corner, and demand for flowers has blossomed. In some regions, the cost of flowers have doubled due to supply chain issues stemming from the pandemic.
The week of Valentine's Day, florists have the second most busy time of the year after Mother's Day. But during the pandemic, flower shortages became a big issue for florists. Mark Shadoff houses 30 flower wholesalers at his flower mall in downtown Los Angeles. He says that certain flowers are in short supply for the special occasion.
So it's becoming more challenging to get flowers into the area. However, clearly it's happening. It's just a lot of pressure. There may be some types of flowers that are maybe more in a limited supply. You know, there's a shortage in what I understand with white flowers, roses and whatnot.
A shop owner said the low supplies are bottlenecked with ships and planes.
It affects a lot of people because of the problem they had at the port, because some flowers are coming on the boat, on the ships, some of them on the airplanes, and they're delaying the flights for some reason, especially from the boat, from the port.
Florists said all flower prices are up, especially roses. Inflation, logistics, and supply issues are all influencing this year's bouquets. Lizette Martinez says she is paying double compared to last spring.
You know, even the prices have gone up. I'm still able to, do the arrangements, and they don't mind about the price, which is kind of surprising.
According to the National Retail Federation, consumer spending is expected to reach $23.9 billion this Valentine's Day.
I don't think you can put a price tag on the cost of love. I think it's something there is no value. It has ultimate value. So you do what you have in your heart, and you flood your loved one with flowers and your appreciation.
Chadoff and other florists are looking forward to Mother's Day with hopes of better prices and more flowers.
Scientists at the NASA Ames campus near Mountain View work day and night to understand the secrets and mysteries of space. But there is one head-scratching question even rocket scientists struggle to solve. Where did the wild turkeys come from? NTD's Cynthia Kai tried to find an answer and learn more about NASA's uninvited and unwanted feathered guests.
A flock of turkeys have made a home at NASA's Ames campus in Moffett Field. Officials sent photos of the fowl, which they say are acting quite foul. They say the birds' poor hygiene and mating season aggression disturb the staff's daily operations. The California Department of Fish and Wildlife says there is an upwards of 30 wild turkeys currently roosting on the research center grounds. The flock has lived in the area for a couple years, but the population has increased and the impacts are more noticeable.
NASA, as a preventative measure, has hired some professional wildlife trappers who are employed by the United States Department of Agriculture. So NASA and USDA are teaming up to trap and relocate these nuisance turkeys.
He said wild animal relocation is usually a last resort, but this is a special situation given the important work done at the Ames Research Center.
We're going to test all these turkeys that we relocate for disease. And so that takes resources. That takes manpower, that takes resources. And then if you think about it, if wildlife is an issue in one area, we would never want to relocate it and just make it somebody else's problem.
He says the turkeys will be released at an ecological reserve in Santa Clara County, where they can roam freely with other turkeys already living there. Palia says no one really knows where the turkeys came from, but much of the state's wildlife lives adjacent to cities.
Essentially, the wildlife who live in these open spaces do their best to get all their food and water resources in the open spaces. But, if their food resources dry up and, if it's a drought year, they may kind of expand their search and then they end up in more developed areas.
A spokesperson at NASA's Ames Research Center told NTD in a statement that the birds have gotten close to the airfield but have not entered. They said the relocation helps to ensure no incidents happen in the future. Officials say if all goes well, the turkeys will be caught, tested, and transported by February 18th. Cynthia Kai, NTD News, California.
Now for a sports update from NTD's Thomas Christian.
I'm Thomas Christian, taking you through the California Today Sports Roundup. Rams head coach Sean McVay couldn't resist poking fun when a reporter asked what the feeling was like when he was on the losing side in the 2018 Super Bowl against the New England Patriots. McVay cracked, "You're the first person to ask me this the whole entire week." Not really. McVay has been asked about the situation each day and has continued to accept responsibility for not functioning at his best in the 13-3 loss to the Patriots. The Rams practiced at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena on Thursday due to high winds at their practice site in Thousand Oaks. It was an approximate 45-mile drive each way. The iconic stadium proved to be a good place for quarterback Matt Stafford. McVay said the 13-year-old veteran had a top-notch practice. Stafford has guided the Rams to 3 wins this postseason after starting 0-3 in the playoffs during his first 12 seasons with the Detroit Lions. Los Angeles tight end Tyler Higbee did not practice Thursday, and his availability for Sunday remains undetermined. Higbee was injured in the NFC Championship game against the San Francisco 49ers on January 30th. Offensive lineman Joe Noteboom was a limited practice participant. His status is also up in the air. Running back Cam Akers was a full participant, and he is expected to start Sunday. American figure skater Nathan Chen won gold in Beijing. He says he owes the most credit to his mother.
She definitely didn't want us to do anything that we didn't love. But if we were to do something, we have to do it better than we've ever done. She holds a very high standard for all of us. Bottom line is, she just wants us to be the best that we can be. And I think without that, there's no way I would have been able to make it to where I am now.
Chen's success was made possible by incredible support from his mother, Hetty Wang.
Ice time is significantly cheaper in Salt Lake than it is in California, but she still scrapped together as many dollars as she could and would drive me from Utah to California, back to Utah to California, back to Utah to California, over and over and over. Racked up like hundreds of thousands of miles on her Prius, but we made it back and forth, and just goes to show she didn't, any hour of the day, whether it's 3 a.m., she's just trugging along in the car and getting me to my training sessions.
Surfing legend Kelly Slater said he plans to compete for an unprecedented 12th world title, including in Australia, where officials have said he will not be able to travel unless he is vaccinated against COVID-19. Slater, who has not revealed his vaccination status, has previously expressed some skepticism about vaccines. He defended tennis world number 1 Novak Djokovic last month after the unvaccinated Serbian was detained and later deported by authorities ahead of the Australian Open. Slater, who turns 50 on Friday, had hinted that he might retire from one of the longest and most successful careers in the sport of surfing after a stunning win at the season opener at the notorious Pipeline last week. The top 5 men and women after 10 events battle for the world title on a one-day finale in September at Trestles near San Clemente in Southern California. Slater's first win as a pro was at Trestles in 1990 when he was 18, and he now lives part-time a short cycle right away.
As always, I'm Thomas Christian, and thanks for tuning in.
And that's all for tonight. You can join us again on California Today every weekday at 8:30 p.m. If you have any news tips or ideas for our show, feel free to let us know. You can also find us on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. I'm David Lamb. Have a wonderful evening.